You can survive this TikTok ban by getting more agnostic with your platforms. Sometimes we get so wedded to a particular way of doing things. It's like I connect with my audience on YouTube, and that's all I do. That's my thing. I only use LinkedIn. The other platforms, I don't use them. I just do TikTok, and people DM me on there, so just reach out on TikTok. The danger with that is what's occurring right now. I talked about at my newsletter today at joindamon.me. You can subscribe for free. Where in 2007, folks were encouraging me to get on an app that was named after a bird and reach out to people. A few years ago, I was paid really well to go into the metaverse and talk about entrepreneurship. Twitter is now in a whole different space. The metaverse isn't much of a conversation anymore. No shots at Meta, but it's not there yet. Maybe it'll be there in the future. So if you end up becoming overly dependent on certain platforms, then that means when those platforms change, and they will change, then you might not be ready to take that audience with you. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the show. But as far as owning your audience and working with your audience, being able to take your audience wherever you are going versus you being dependent on a third party for it. One of the best ways you can do this is always connecting on a variety of platforms. Doesn't have to be every platform. You don't need to be on, I'm not even going to name all of them. I would run out of breath. You don't have to be on 10 platforms at the same time. That's not required. But I think what's helpful is being on a few and even having your own platform and building from there, which I think is a really important part of the discussion. If you're going to be getting into different platforms, then I think you need to kind of take a step back and figure out what exactly you want to get out of the platform. And if your audience is really there in that way, and chances are your audience is going to be in a few different areas. And luckily, there's some frameworks you can work with to help you get there. I would highly recommend watching this video that I did. It's one of those masterclass videos. It's only a couple hours long or so, but it's a lot of information in there. Business success without social media. I talk about how several years ago, I actually took a break from social media. And that quarter, business quarter that I took a break, my revenue and profit went up. I think it doubled. Again, I talk about it in the video, but I believe it doubled. And what occurred was that I found all these different ways to connect with my audience. At that time, I was really building up my coaching practice. I had just started coaching, and I think it was about 7, 8 years ago. And I was going through what I was going through, and then it actually got me to get on the phone. It got me to beef up my newsletter. It got me to text message people. It got me to actually, and I was living in the Midwest at the time, so it was cold. I remember it was winter time. It was probably about this time that year in January going into February. I remember like meeting people at coffee houses in the Midwest. It was freezing, hanging out with them, da da da. And it was this beautiful experience of building with them and being able to do a lot more, you know? And I agree. Thank you, Carlos. I agree. The space is ready for new platforms. The thing is that there's always going to be that cycle. When people were talking in 2007, they assumed that Twitter would always be the same. When I got hired to come into the metaverse back in 2022, 2021 or so, then people assume that everyone's going to be working in the metaverse. And it's like, that's not how it works at all. There's a natural cycle of things. And with social media, it's important that you go ahead and build up whatever your energy is outside of social media. That's really important too. I get deep into how I did it. I get deeper into the profit aspect of it and how you can make a living outside of social media and how I had some of my biggest successes and best years when I actually backed off of social media. Even to this day, you'll catch me on maybe two social media platforms, three max. That's enough. I don't have to be everywhere at once. And that allows me to really concentrate on things like having this show regularly. If you're going to be getting into managing your social media or being more agnostic with it, One of the best things you can do is get a tool called Meet Edgar. Shout out to Laura, one of my favorite entrepreneurs, especially as far as in being a female entrepreneur. She's killing it out there. I'm so proud of your work over there. I'm going to try to add this to the stage. There we go. This is Meet Edgar. It works really, really simply. And let me see if I can get a calendar here. I don't think they have a calendar available for the public, but I'll show this right here. So it works like this. You go ahead and you say what platforms you're interested in. It could be Facebook, Instagram, and let's say Twitter. And Meet Edgar is like, great. You log in, you give Meet Edgar access to those. Then let's say you have a post saying, hey, I'm going to be live on Wednesday talking about 3 ways for your business to survive on Twitter or without TikTok, all the T's, without TikTok. Instead of putting it directly into, say, Twitter X, putting it directly into Instagram, or putting it directly into Facebook, you put into Meet Edgar. And then it will come up with the best time to schedule that to go out. So that's one instance of it. The second instance is that you do the same thing, but with evergreen content. This is where the real power comes in. So you're currently hanging out with me on the 406th episode of Bring Your Worth TV. Very proud of it. Thank you for the journey. That means there's 405 other episodes. Episodes I probably forgot about. It's been going on 4.5 years. I put descriptions and links and images for those 405 previous episodes into Meet Edgar. And then it'll do the scramble thing and say, you know what? You seem to get the most engagement on Twitter when you post something about an old episode around 4 a.m. on Wednesdays. So Damon, we got you. Every Wednesday at 4 a.m., as long as it works and we get the engagement, we're going to make sure that we get a random old episode and put it up there then. Set it and forget it. Shout out to the 1980s infomercials. But you set it and you forget it. Done. This is beautiful because for the 2 or 3 platforms that I'm actually on, that I actually am engaging in, I'm able to have this content go out and I'm not wedded or tied, number one, to just one platform. And number two, I don't have to be on there the whole time. My messages get out and I can go on there a few times a week and engage, hang out, whatever. You can adjust it to whatever you're doing. You're not wedded to that particular platform. So with TikTok going away, at least as far as every indication, hence me having the show this week, it's not going to affect my business like that, or as much as it could have if I was just focused on TikTok. Meet Edgar is a good thing to have in your arsenal. I highly recommend it. Another good one is Opus Pro. Opus Pro is a little bit different, and I'll go ahead and set that up for you guys as well. Yeah, my technology is running a little slow today. There we go. Hopefully you guys can see that. Cool. And so Opus Pro, I've been using it for a little while now. What it does is, this can give you the simple version of it. There you go. Sorry for the bouncy graphics, but this is how they design their website. And so you can have a conversation like we're having right now. If you have a podcast, if you have a long interview series, that kind of setup, even if you have something that's a little bit more curated, you can take those video clips or that video and put the whole thing into Opus Clips. And then using their technology, part of it is AI, part of it is other things, they'll go and split it up into usable clips. Again, this is great for 2 reasons. Number one, you don't have to sit there and clip it by hand. And if you've been doing shorts or long form content going into shorts, as long as I have, you remember the days where even just a few years ago, talking like it was ages ago, just a few years ago, even just 2 years ago before Opus Clip came around, then you'd have to go by hand. You have to listen to what they're saying, put the subtitles in there, which you can see automatically happen with Opus Clip. Put subtitles in there, figure out what spaces you want to do, change the formatting. You see that they automatically split it up when 2 people are talking. It's just a lot. And so you're able to do that. So I'm able to take something like the conversation we're having today, which will probably be about an hour, and then use something like this, and it'll find 2, 3 minute nuggets, sometimes 30-second nuggets that work really well. The second part of this, which you'll see the pattern here, is that it's completely agnostic. So for YouTube, for Instagram, for any of those, particularly when you're doing those kind of that kind of short content, if you're familiar with it at all, they all have their built-in editors, which is cool. I mean, it's cute. I prefer to use my own editor even before Opus Clip came around. Shout out to Adobe and InShot and all those guys I've talked about in the past. You can see the earlier episodes where I talk about the best software for podcasting. But with that in mind, if you go and design your particular short or video in the app that YouTube has, you're kind of designing it for YouTube. If you use the tools that TikTok has, I believe it's CapCut, that has its branding and has its limitations. If you use Instagram and you design it in there, this is a way to design it again away from the platform. So when I have something that I get from Opus Clip, I can share it on LinkedIn. I can share it. I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I can share it on there, et cetera, et cetera. So it allows you again to be agnostic and not have to worry about things. The links for all the stuff that I'm talking about are below, and it gives you the opportunity to go ahead and move from there. You know, thank you. Another option is for people is Capwing, which I've heard of but I've never used before, mainly because it makes it very easy to edit the captions. Editing captions via time, which is super helpful. A bit more deep dive in Opus. Agreed. Agreed. So Opus will give you the basics of the captions. Captions get wrong, you can get in there, get a little bit dirty. But as Carlos talks about, thank you. He also recommends a platform called Capwing. I'm sure you can do a quick Google search and find out more about that. Thank you, Carlos. So again, as Carlos was talking about, like there's lots of ways to do this without just being focused on one particular platform. The last recommendation when it comes to that is one called StreamYard. In a meta way, I'm actually using it right now. And so StreamYard allows you to stream to multiple platforms. So as we speak, as we're hanging out, I'm streaming to YouTube at bringyourworth.tv. I'm streaming to LinkedIn. Shout out to y'all over at LinkedIn. And then it's a little buggy right now, but I'm also streaming to Twitch, twitch.tv/Brown Damon. All the links are below if you can check that and subscribe on those respective platforms. StreamYard allows you to go ahead and do that in multiple platforms at the same time. This was a struggle when I first started my show about 4 years ago because I know I wanted to go live and it will give me a chance to connect with y'all. I'm a big Q&A guy. If you've seen me, I do a lot of public speaking. So if you see me in person, whatever, I'm really big on the Q&As. It's kind of like an element of that coaching element part of me. And it enables me to do that. I struggle because I didn't know a good way for me to be live on multiple platforms. So I partnered with Costco, the big box store, when I did a launch for Build From Now back in January of 2021, so 4 years ago now. But I can only be on Instagram. I didn't know how to do it elsewhere. A lot of y'all came through. It was beautiful. It's actually recorded at bringyourworth.tv if you want to watch the old episode of that. But having the opportunity to do that on multiple platforms is a gift. This allows you to do that, including it on TikTok. So if TikTok survives or it continues to be in its form, then it's a good opportunity for you. There's a link right there. It's a referral link. I think you get like a bonus if you do it through me. Go and check it out, see what's happening. If you want to get into the streaming, there's a lot of opportunities there. The pattern that you see in all this is that you want to get agnostic with your platforms. Agnostic means not being dedicated to one particular belief or faith. So don't just say, oh, I'm a TikToker. Oh, I'm a YouTuber. Oh, I'm only on LinkedIn. Oh, no, only tweet. I mean, that might be your main emphasis. Obviously, my emphasis is on having the show. And that means in some ways I'm a YouTuber. But that's why you see me on Twitch. That's why you see me on LinkedIn. That's been a conscious decision the whole time, because YouTube is just part of the many infrastructures that we have available, particularly nowadays. Things like StreamYard allow us to quickly connect to other platforms and build from now and allow us to show up in certain ways. So how are you becoming more agnostic? Is this TikTok ban that's coming up this weekend, is that making you really think about how you're too or overly invested in particular platforms? And then what are you doing now to adjust to it? Let me know in the comments. Even if you're watching the replay, I'd love to go ahead and hear your take on it. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. You're watching Bring Your Earth TV. Come to you Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free and get the complete Bring Your Earth collection everywhere books are sold, and listen to it right now for free at bringyourearth.tv. Just use the link below.